Hello, everybody, and welcome along to today's Festive Payroll webinar. My name's Calvin, and I will be your host and presenter today, and I'm joined by Duncan, who will be co-hosting throughout today's session as well. Now, before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping to run through. Now, for those of you who are regulars to our webinars, this should just be a quick recap. For anyone new, we do use GoToWebinar's webcast feature, which has a few icons on the right-hand side in your web browser, which is where you're watching this at the moment. And at the top, the first one is your microphone. Now, this is muted automatically if you have one. It can't be changed. It just means that if you have having any conversations with colleagues or family, if you're still working from home, then nothing will be heard by anyone in the session. So feel free to continue any conversations or chats that you may be having while the session goes on. Next, if you would like to ask us a question throughout the session today, just click on that question mark within the speech bubble icon. That will expand the page. Then you can type in your question in the white box, hit the blue send button, and that will appear as a speech bubble in the gray area with the answer underneath. Now, we do use the reply to all feature, so you may also see some other questions and answers coming through in that section. A quick tip on this one as well, because it is the webcast feature, there is no facility to download the Q&A at the end of the session. So my advice and tip is to always copy and paste the Q&A into a Word document and save that if you wish to save it for later. Speaking of saving things for later, we do have a copy of today's presentation as a handout, not only as a digital copy, which has all the useful links in it, but also as a printable version. So less black and more white, so a little bit more friendly with the old ink there for your printer. And lastly, if you would like to see this full screen, please feel free to do so just by clicking those 4 arrows at the bottom and making the presentation full screen. Okay, so what we're going to do today as well as a bit of fun is we've got a little challenge for you whilst we go through the session today. Some cheeky elves have decided to sneak their way into our presentation, and we need your help to try and count them in order to send them back to Santa. So if you wouldn't mind keeping an eye and then count how many elves are within the presentation, and we'll get your answers at the end. So since this is a festive webinar, just a little bit of festive fun whilst we go through. Now, on to the order of business. You'll notice we have some contents available. We'll run through that now. So I'm going to be taking you through seasonal staff, so what you need to do and little tips in terms of dealing with seasonal staff. Then I'll be handing over to Duncan, who's going to take us through advance pay. It's back to me again for some bonus payments. Then we'll be handing over to Duncan once more, who will be finishing off with adding a festive payslip message, as well as taking you through advancing your holiday year. So that being said, let's get into the first section, which is all to do with seasonal staff. So during the festive period, you may want to take on a few extra heads in order to help with the busy times. So what you'll need is a couple of things. So we have a P45 off the new starter or a starter checklist. Now you can get this from the government website. So we've got a link to it there if you need it. And that will help you determine some tax codes. But you'll also need a starter declaration as well. So again, if you need advice on new employee tax codes, the link is available to you there. Now, one thing to note with seasonal staff is you may only be taking them on for a couple of months or a couple of weeks even. So you may not want to have them in the pension, or they may not want to be in the pension scheme. You can, of course, postpone any eligible members of staff for up to 3 months as well. So you can do that either through the pension module, if you're using that through pension assessment, or do it manually simply by not adding the pension to the employee just yet, as long as you're informing your pension provider that you are postponing that employee. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly jump into the program. We'll just demonstrate the 2 ways to add a member of staff, and we'll run through that now. Here we are in our payroll program. Now you see we've got our festive staff here already, and we need to add someone else. Now there's 2 methods to do this. So there's no right or wrong one, it's all what you prefer. So if we go down and click employee on the bottom left there, you either have quick employee or the employee wizard. Now if I click on employee wizard, you'll see that's exactly what it is. It's a little wizard that pops up and it takes you through adding an employee step by step. What you can also do, if I cancel out of there, is use the quick employee option. So if I click on a quick employee, we're going to start one from scratch because I've got several highlighted. You can, of course, copy details. So if they are going into a similar department, for example, you can highlight a single person, click quick employee, and then you can copy over that information. So if I click yes to that, their departments will be included already. So there'll be key information copied over. Things that you'll still need to enter are highlighted by little stars. So surname, forename, for example, and there is your starting declaration, depending on which one you have. Now, if you don't have a P45, you do need to get that starter checklist, which is the old P46. So if you do have a starter checklist and don't have a P45, select P46 from that drop down, and then it's either statement A, B, or C, whichever they filled in on the checklist. Now, we'll not go through because we are quite short on time and there's so much to go through today, so I'll not enter an employee. But that's just showing you the two different methods that you can go through and just explaining the P45 and new starter checklist for you. So with that being said, you might want to drive home for Christmas and you definitely don't want to stay another day. So if that is the case, I'm going to hand over to Duncan now, who's going to take you through advancing the pay. So it's over to you, Duncan.
Thank you very much, Calvin, and season's greetings to all of you who are tuned in. So I'm going to start my section off with a bit on advancing pay. And this term can mean many different things, but it has a specific meaning in Sage Payroll. So let's just clarify exactly what I mean by advance pay. So when you use advance pay in Sage Payroll, you are paying employees early for a future pay period. So more than one period, not just the current period, but the current and one or more future periods. So a good example around this time of year is that you might be closed for a week over Christmas and you want to pay your weekly paid staff for 2 weeks instead of just the usual one, covering the week they've just worked and the week that they will be on holiday. So that is a scenario where you might choose to use advance pay, and the system will then use all of the allowances to calculate your deductions for both the current week and the week you're paying in advance. Now, you don't have to use it. You can continue to run separate pay periods, and even if you're paying your staff early, you could add together their net pay from the various weeks you want to pay as a lump sum and just give them that wage on the earlier pay date. And there are actually some specific scenarios where we recommend not to use advance pay. So I'll quickly run through those and then we'll do a bit of a demo for you. So the first scenario is where you're making an early payment, but it's in the same pay period. So often monthly paid staff in particular are paid on a specific day of the month. And if your regular payday happens to be the 25th, which of course lands on Christmas Day, which is a bank holiday, it's even a weekend this year as well. You might be paying your staff on an earlier date. You might choose to pay them maybe a week early, but that falls into the same tax period. So that's not advance pay, that is just paying your employees early. And actually the latest guidance from HMRC will be to continue to use your regular pay date on your payroll reports and your submission to them, but go ahead and pay the employee on the agreed earlier pay date. And that way, it doesn't affect any universal credit claims that some of your staff might be making. Statutory payments can't be advanced. So if you've got someone on maternity, paternity, long-term sick leave, you would need to process separate weekly periods for them, as you can't advance the statutory payment. Some pension providers will need a separate contribution file for every weekly period. And in order to create that, you'll need to process them as separate periods. And if you operate a salary sacrifice pension, we also recommend not using advance pay due to the way that it calculates the advance deductions. So hopefully that gives you some clarity on what it is, when to use it and when not to use it. I'm now going to give you a quick demo of using the advance pay feature. So let's just bring the slides down. You'll see that I'm already signed into my payroll. I have a weekly and a monthly payroll. So I'm just going to focus on the weekly paid employees. And in this example, they're going to be paid on the 23rd of December for the week they've just done, but I'm also going to pay them a week in advance, which would cover the pay date of the 30th of December. So they'll next be paid by me on the 6th of January. Now, quick note as well, I have one employee who is currently off sick. So Jack Frost here is unfortunately unwell, and they're going to be off sick for the next few weeks. You can see I've already recorded their sickness details for the end of December. And because we can't advance statutory payments, I'm not going to use the advance pay feature for that particular employee. So first way you can set this up is on an individual basis. So if I set my pay date to the 23rd and go into the enter payment screen for my first employee, Merry Christmas. You can see a theme here, I should think. You'll see that it displays the payments for the current period. So Mary works 40 hours a week. She gets paid £15 an hour. And then here at the bottom, we have the advance pay option. And if we click onto this, we can enter a number of periods to advance. So just one extra week in this instance. And then we've got various tabs where we can enter the advance payments. So I'm going to enter them against the basic line, just in the same way I would enter normal wages. So 40 hours paid in advance at £15 per hour. I don't have any deductions or attachments to worry about, but you will see things like pensions automatically advance. And if I just take you to the summary tab here within the enter payment screen, you can see it has separated out the current values to the advance period values, and it's also been able to sort of calculate the deductions using the allowances, so the free pay allowance, etc., the NI allowances for that extra week. So if we just put through double 600 in the current period, they'd have ended up paying more national insurance and they'd have been taxed based on that 1 week. But by using advance pay, splits the allowances evenly, so they're going to end up with the correct amount of net pay overall. So that's how you would enter advance pay in the enter payment screen. But you will have noticed there that I had to actually enter all of the values of the payments that I wanted to pay in advance. And there is a way to speed this up and get them to auto advance, either based on the last period, the last payments you entered, or the default payments. So let me quickly show you how that works. So first of all, in your pay element settings, you would choose which of your payments you want to be auto advanced. So in my case, it's just the basic pay. And what I've done here is I've ticked the auto advance box here at the bottom of the pay element settings. And what I can then do is I can select the employees that I want to advance pay for. So everyone except Jack Frost. And I'm then going to go into the global changes option. So it's through the tasks menu, global changes, and advance pay. And from here, we can advance pay in this instance for 1 period. So it's asking us what we want to base the payments upon. Is it the default hours or rates, or is it the current hours and rates? We're going to go with defaults. And we now have 4 employees who are now marked to receive the advance pay when next updated. And if we go into the enter payment screen again, we can see we've got this 1 advance period. And we also now have that for our other employees. So it's advancing their pay based on their default values. And it's done that for all of the employees that I selected. So what does that look like on a payslip? Well, if I go into my pre-update reports, there'll just be 1 set of payslips and reports created, which covers the full 2-week period in this case. And I'm just going to take a look at the standard laser report. So it has the current payments in the usual place, and then it has a lump sum for any advance pay shown separately. And then the deductions here are the deductions based on the total amount paid and this and next week's allowances. So we've got our advance pay for each of those employees. And if I was to go ahead and update the records, once I've printed my reports, etc., you can see that the last updated date is now showing the 30th of December. So that's the pay date that I've paid in advance. And the current status, because I've used advance pay, is showing holiday. Now I've left Jacqueline out here because she is on sick leave at the moment. So if I go into the enter payment screen, you can see that I've reduced her basic to nothing. She's actually receiving statutory sick pay based on these absence entries that I've put on the absence diary. And if I try to advance pay in the same way as I did for the others, because there isn't any standard payments she's going to be receiving, it won't advance any payment because it won't advance statutory pay. So what I would need to do in this case is not to use advance pay, but create separate pay slips for each of the pay dates that I'm paying in advance. So I do my pay slips, update the records, and then I would do an FPS, and then I would repeat the exact same process for the 30th of December pay date. And then I can add together the net pay on both pay slips and pay Jackie the amount that she's owed on that first pay date. So that very briefly is advance pay, when to use it and when not to use it. And for our next topic, I'm going to hand back to Calvin, who's going to run us through Christmas bonuses. So back over to you, Calvin.
Thank you so much, Duncan. So yes, let's have a look at some Christmas bonuses. So you may want to spread a little bit of Christmas cheer and offer your staff a little bit of a Christmas bonus. Now, there are a couple of things to run through for this one. So there's two types of bonus payments you can give. So you can give a standard payment. So this is where you would enter a gross amount and tax and national insurance will be deducted as normal. So we'll go through and we'll demonstrate both of these. However, the other option you can do is offer a net payment. So you can then enter the net amount and the cost of the net payments is calculated, which is included in the gross pay. So in other words, if you would like to give your employees a value to take away with, so you know that they are going to have at least £100 to go away with, you can add a net payment to ensure that they have that £100 on top of their pay. The program will then recalculate all the national insurance and tax that is required to ensure that you are paying the right gross amount for that employee to have £100. Alternatively, you can go with the standard payment of £100, which is taxable and subject to national insurance as well. So what we'll do, let's jump into the program now and we'll have a look at setting up both a standard payment for Christmas bonus as well as a net payment. So we're going to jump into our payroll now. Here we are. So we're going to go into company first because we're going to go ahead and set a standard payment up and then we're going to assign it to our employees globally. So we're going to go into company, then we're going to go to pay elements, and then we'll just hit the new button and this will set up a new payment. Now, we'll give it a name, just so I can differentiate between the two when I go through the demo. You can call it Christmas bonus, call it whatever you like. That's what it will appear on the payslip, is whatever you put in as the description. You then need to select what the payment is subject to. Now, it may well be subject to tax and national insurance. It may also need to be pensionable, which you'll have to check with your pension provider about that. So they will let you know whether a bonus payment is classed as pensionable or not. If it's not, simply untick these three boxes. If it is, leave them ticked by default. Then you have any attachments as well. So things like community charges, council tax, and other attachments, you have to tick there. Again, depending on the bonus payment itself and the scenarios behind it, we can't advise what you're supposed to tick yes or no on that sense. You will need to check with HMRC. They are usually taxable, so the PAYE and national insurance are most common. However, like I said, if you're ever unsure, HMRC are the best people to speak to regarding that. As it's a one-off bonus, it's usually good to not include this in the minimum wage calculation. Otherwise, it can affect that in general across the month, the period. Then click OK, and your pay element has been set up for a gross payment. So that's your standard payments, nice and straightforward, very similar to what you would have done when setting up other payments such as bonuses, commission, overtime, or even basic rate as well. So we click OK to that. Now we're going to assign it to all of our employees globally. So we're going to go to tasks at the top, global changes. Then we're going to go down to payments. So it's not pay elements, it's payments. And then we're going to add a payment. So select that. I'm going to highlight our Christmas gross payments, which is what we've just created. Click OK. Yep. And that has now updated all 10 records that we have highlighted and has added the payment to our entire employee base. So just to show you that, if I go back to payroll on the bottom left, into enter payments, and you'll see now we have our payment added. So it's now all about how much you want to give. So we'll use that example of £100 right there. There you go. And that's how you would add a standard payment for a Christmas bonus. However, if you want to give a net payment, so we're going to give Santa a bit of a net payment here. We're going to go into the enter payment screen. We're in Santa Claus's payment now. We're going to go ahead and click add payment. This time we're going to go down to the drop down and click new. So click that arrow to drop down. There you can see all the payments you've set up. And we're going to click new. Now you're going to be asked for two different choices, either a payment, which is what we set up earlier, or a net payment. So we're going to go ahead and click net payment. And we're given this screen. So we'll just change the name again. Now this time you'll need to select what you want that payment adjusted for. So you can adjust it just for tax, in which case national insurance will be calculated in the normal way. So this won't get the exact figure. However, you can adjust it for both tax and national insurance, which is what we're going to select today. Same goes for pension and the attachments. So council tax, community charge, etc. Double check with HMRC and your pension provider. Once you've done that, simply click OK, and that is the net payment then added. And you'll notice in these two columns, standard payment is pre-tax and pre-national insurance, but we have net and net classed in the tax and national insurance column there. We'll go ahead and hit save. Now we just need to simply give a figure, and you'll notice we have a new line that is the cost of net payments. There we go. And that's all you need to do. So that is a net payment, and you'll notice now we have cost of net payments has been added. So that £100 was added directly, and it is reverse engineered £29.40 for tax and £17.64. So it is adding £47.04 to the total gross payment to ensure this employee has received and is taking home £100 for Christmas. So those are the two different payments you can set up in order to pay a Christmas bonus across this month. You can, of course, do that for a bonus anytime during the year, but usually Christmas is the most common time that people tend to pay out a one-off bonus now. So with that said, it's now back to Duncan, who's going to talk us through how to add a little festive payslip message to your employees. So it's over to you, Duncan.
Thank you for that, Calvin. So next up, we're going to look at festive payslip messages. So the payslip messages this year so far have been a bit on the dull side, explaining the increase in national insurance many of you would have used a payslip message for. But this time of year, especially now that that national insurance increase has been reversed, you might want to use it to send a little bit of good cheer to your employees with a message on their Christmas payslip. And it is really simple to do, and I'm going to walk you through the steps. So assuming it is the same message that you want to give to everyone, the easiest way to do it is via global changes. So you'll be able to set a payslip comment, as it's known in the program, which will put a message of up to 256 characters of your choice on all of our standard payslip layouts. That includes our online payslips as well. So if you do use online payslips, this comment will be added to those payslips as well to be viewed on screen or in the PDF that is downloaded. Now, of course, you'll want to remove this message in January, which you can also do via Global Changes. So let's take a quick look at how that works. So because I've already done my weekly payroll, I'm going to work with these monthly paid employees for this demo. They're being paid a little bit early, but I'm going to set their pay date to the regular pay date, the 25th of December. And that way the interval between their pay dates remains 1 month, and it means that any universal credit claims would not be adversely affected. So that's the pay date set. The payslip comment is entered within the employee record. So I'll just show you where it lives. It's on the analysis tab in this box here. So you could go through one by one, entering the payslip comment there for your employees. But what we're going to do is we're going to populate that using Global Changes. So if I go to the Tasks menu at the top of the screen and down to Global Changes, you'll find payslip comments under Electronic Documents. But don't be fooled by that. It's the same place that you would add payslip comments to a printed payslip. So you would use this option to set payslip comments. And then in this box, you would enter the comment that you would like to appear on everyone's payslip. So to save a little bit of time, I'm going to copy and paste a message in. So wishing my employees a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from everyone here at Sage. And if I click OK, I've got the 5 employees selected, and I can click Yes to proceed, which then adds that message into the employee record. And if we take a look where we were before, that payslip comment now appears for each of these employees. It's then just a case of entering their payments and producing the payslips as normal. So if I go into my pre-update reports, we'll take a look at one of the standard laser payslips, which I happen to have added to my favorites. All of the standard layouts now have payslip comments. So as long as you're using a standard one, you should see the message that you've entered. And here it is at the top of this particular payslip layout for each of those employees, a nice little festive message. Now, when you get into January, obviously Christmas is over for another year at that point. So you'll be wanting to remove that message. And that's just as easy, if not easier, to remove than it is to add, as you will simply go back to Tasks, Global Changes, Electronic Documents, but this time you would click Clear Payslip Comments. And if I click Yes to proceed, and then click OK, you'll see if I look in the employee records, payslip comment is gone, and when I do next month's payslips, they will be as they normally are. So that is adding a festive message to your payslips, a really simple way to do it. You can even save a bit of time there by using Global Changes. Now I'm doing the next topic as well. So we're going to finish the demo with advancing your holiday year. Now, not everyone will need to do this. We're covering this in the webinar today because a lot of people's holiday year runs January to December. So obviously after the festive period, all of those allowances will reset. And depending on your scheme rules, you might allow people to bring forward any unused holiday and add it on to next year's entitlement, or you might have a kind of use it or lose it policy where you would want it just to reset to the default amount. So I'm going to show you some settings and I'm going to run you through a process for advancing the holiday year. But if your holiday year doesn't run January to December, you can still pay attention to this bit and you would just follow these steps at the point that your holiday year begins. So what's involved in this? Well, we've got 4 steps I'd recommend that you do. So first of all, make sure you've printed the final versions of this year's holiday reports. And I'll show you a couple of those reports as we go through the demo. Second step is to check your holiday settings, because you can either allow or not allow holiday to be brought forward if it's not been taken in the previous year. Third step, just as a precaution, is to take a backup in case anything goes wrong when you advance the holiday year and you're not happy with the entitlements that have been brought forward or not. And then finally, run the advanced holiday year wizard. So let's take a look at those steps now. So I'm going to go back to all of my employees because they're all in the holiday scheme. And I'll show you where to find the holiday reports. So if I go into my main reports option, you would head to the absence folder here on the left-hand side. And then anything that mentions holiday will contain holiday information. And the one I'm going to run is the holiday year summary report. So I'll just bring up a preview for this one. You can see at the top, my current holiday year start date is the 1st of January 2022. I'm going to zoom in slightly for you. And you can see for most of these employees, the holiday they've taken and the holiday left to take, most of them have taken their full entitlement. So for a lot of them, 5 to take, 5 booked, most likely over the Christmas period. But there are a few where we are going to allow them to carry over some holiday. So we've got this employee who's had some maternity leave this year. So she's going to carry 5 days over. And we've got one here with a day to take and another one here with 4 days to take. Now it is up to you, up to your company policy as to whether you allow this or not. So we're going to take a look at the setting in your holiday schemes. And once we've done that, we'll go ahead and advance the holiday year. So if I go to company here on the left-hand side, and then go into the holidays section. This is my holiday scheme with a festive theme. And you'll see on the entitlement tab, this is the standard entitlement that they get, 25 days. But there's a setting that will allow entitlement brought forward from a previous year if it hasn't been used. So I have decided to allow this. So I've ticked the box, but if your scheme doesn't allow it and you just want to reset everyone's entitlement to the standard, you would need to make sure that that box is cleared. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. I'm going to close out of the holiday scheme settings. And as I don't have a recent backup, I'm going to take one now, just through the file menu. I'm going to go into backup, just going to back up the standard files, and we'll call this before advancing holiday year. Just so that I've got a get out of jail card. If I put the wrong setting on and need to do this again, I could always restore back. So that's the backup taken. What I'm now going to do is advance the holiday year. So you do this from the tasks menu here at the top. You would come down to advance holiday year. That will then run you through a wizard. So there's an absence and holiday year. We're going to advance both of them because they both run January to December. So make sure you've ticked both of these boxes, but you don't need to change this date. So this is the current holiday year. It's going to advance when we click finish. So if I then click onto the finish option, that is then advancing the holiday entitlements, resetting them, plus adding on anything brought forward. And if I just set my date a little way into the future, 1st of January next year, I'm just going to run that same holiday report again. And then holiday year summary report. Here we go. So this is the version for the new year. You can see holiday year start date has changed now to 2023. And you will see for those 3 employees that I pointed out, it has brought forward the days they didn't use. It's added it on to the scheme entitlement. So this year to take, these guys have got a few more than 25. Everyone else has the 25 days that they are then able to take next year. So that is advancing the holiday year. Quick recap of the process. Print your reports first and make sure that you have entered everyone's holiday. You're happy with what's on that final report for your current year. Have a check of your holiday scheme settings. So if you do allow days to be brought forward, you tick the box. If you don't, you clear it. Take a backup just as a precaution, and then run through the advanced holiday year wizard. So that is our final topic. And to wrap things up and to update you on the Christmas challenge, I'm going to hand back to Calvin. So back over to you.
Thank you so much, Duncan. So yes, we've come to the end of the main main body of the session itself. However, I did want to leave you with a few bits of information about further support that you might have throughout this festive period, and of course, throughout your entire payroll journey with Sage. The first one is being our help center. So if you head on over to sage.co.uk/help, you'll be able to access a library of knowledge-based articles, support guides, access to webinars. We do weekly webinars every Thursday at 2 o'clock. Next week will be the last one for this year, however, due to the festive period, and then we'll be resuming them in January. You also have access to various videos, as well as if you do need to speak to us, the get in touch options are available through the Help Centre as well. Added to that, as a Sage customer, you all have free access to Sage membership. And what is Sage membership? Well, there's three things involved in it. The first one is Sage University, which some of you may already be familiar with. But this is now free, so you can go ahead and visit sageu.com. And there is a library of e-learning courses and online training curriculum to go through for Sage Payroll if you'd like to expand your Sage Payroll learning. Again, it can be done at your own time in your own pace as well, and there's badges and certifications to be achieved through that as well. So it's definitely worth heading on over to sageu.com and having a look at that. There is also Sage City. Now, Sage City is an online forum based platform where you can share your own hints and tips and views, as well as speaking with other people in your field as well, and even ask them a question. And lastly is our new Sage Masterclass. Now, Sage Masterclass is done in seasons. So we just had season 2, where there is videos and presentations by various different experts, all under a guise of a theme. So we have had Unlocking Your Potential as season 2. So it's definitely worth having a look over there as well. So this is all accessible for free for you as well. So that pretty much wraps it up. The last thing to mention is the webinar challenge that we had on today. Now I'm going to ask you all to use the questions panel for your answers if you want to get involved. So click on that little question mark icon on the right hand side, expand the page out and pop your answer in and hit send. So how many elves did you count through the session is the challenge there. So if you want to pop your answers in, and we'll go through there. And whilst we do that, don't forget you can continue to ask your questions while I wait for your responses to come through. Then I will reveal the answer in about a minute or so to give you a chance to pop it in. Hopefully you enjoyed this little feature as well. We did want to make it quite fun, so I know it's not payroll related, but it's just a little bit fun for a festive webinar treat as well. Those cheeky elves do get about, so we do need to ship them back off to Santa. So I can see a lot of you've got a lot of guesses there. Thank you so much for getting involved. And what we'll do is let's reveal the answer now. So the answer is, if it would reveal for me, it's a bit of an anticlimax there, wasn't it? It is 11. There was 11 elves. So a few got it correct. A few were very close, very, very close indeed. We did try to be sneaky with a few. I'm not going to lie on that one. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. We'll spend a couple of minutes now getting any remaining questions answered up, or if you've got any questions, get them in now, and we'll fill that with the last 5 minutes. If you are leaving us at this stage, I hope you've enjoyed it, found it useful, and certainly enjoyable and entertaining at least as well. And of course, I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas if you are leaving us. If it's snowing where you are, like it is here, we may well be getting a white Christmas, who knows. But you will be directed to a quick survey when you exit the session or when the session ends. It means quite a lot to Duncan and myself if you take the small amount of time just to fill that in. I know every time you speak to someone on the phone or go to shops, you ask for surveys, but we do take ours very, very seriously, like everyone else will, I'm sure. But we want to make changes based on what you say rather than what we think. So it would be really, really useful for us to improve webinars going forward in general. And of course, if you like that bit of interaction, let us know. And that's it. I'm going to pop on mute now, and then I'll get the help Duncan through with the questions, and I'll pop back in about 5 minutes or so, or once the questions have been answered, to say our final goodbyes. Thank you. Okay, everyone, I can see the questions are slowly running out, and Duncan and I have managed to get majority of them answered. I think we've got them all answered actually. So we're going to wrap it up at this point in a couple of moments. So I'm just giving you the 2-minute warning on that one. A reminder at this point as well, because I mentioned earlier, it is a webcast feature through GoToWebinar, which means unfortunately there's no facility to download a copy of the Q&A today. So if you would like to keep a hold of that, do copy and paste that into a Word document. So this is a good opportunity to do that, as well as don't forget to grab a hold of the handout as well. And a reminder there's a digital copy and a printable copy if you wish to print them. The digital one will have the clickable links, and the one for printing obviously will not have that. So again, it's an absolute pleasure to see so many of you on the session today. So thank you so much for turning up. And of course, for those who stuck around to the very end, I hope you've certainly enjoyed it and got something out of that. And I hope you and the families all have an absolutely wonderful Christmas time, and an absolutely amazing Happy New Year. And keep an eye out on 2023, because our webinars will be going stronger than ever, and we'll probably be putting a few more on as well. So thanks to everyone. Hope you're looking out for yourselves out there, staying safe, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.